Hi, everyone. This is Debbie, and welcome back to the Transition Bridge podcast. This is the podcast where we come together each and every week to discover more about the purpose and the power of life's transitions. If you find yourself in the middle of a difficult or challenging season in your life, I want you to reach out because, as your life transition coach, I want to help you navigate to the other side, help you identify some of the struggles that you're going through. So if that is you, I want you to connect with me. And one of the transitions that I really love to work with as well is when a mother becomes the empty nester. When your children, all of a sudden, it just seems that time is here and they're leaving your nest. This is a difficult transition for mothers, and we cannot even anticipate where our heart will be until that moment comes. And so I would love to meet with you as well. In fact, if you are a mother about to step into that season, you may have a bunch of friends who are also doing this at the same time. Why don't you all get together and we're going to do a group coaching? I would love to help you in this season of becoming an empty nester. Now, getting to today's podcast, because it's all about motherhood, I just want to say when we transition and become a mother, it really is one of the most beautiful seasons in a woman's life, but it's also a complex time as we begin to shift in our identities. And without realizing it, we can lose a part of ourselves. So if you are a mom and you're longing for a reset and you're wanting to understand more about your identity in this season, well, this episode is for you. I'm excited for you to meet my guest, Olivia Bergeron. She is here to share with us tools and strategies for you in this season. She is a therapist, a parent coach, and the founder of Mommy Groove Therapy and Parent Coaching. She specializes in mental health, maternal mental health, and she's helping moms break generational patterns through her frameworks. Let me say that again. Stop, soften, see, and the loyalty bind, which I can't wait to hear all about. She's been featured in the New York Times, HuffPost, Self Magazine, ABC News, and Parents magazines. Well, Olivia, I'm honored to have you with us here today on the Transition Bridge podcast, and welcome.
Debbie, it's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, when I first read about what it is that you do, I thought every mother needs to hear your expertise because it is one of the most beautiful seasons in a woman's life. Yet it is complex because without realizing it, as we are nurturing our families, our children, we are losing a part of ourselves and may not realize it until later. And so you have your own story of transition from where you were and how you discovered this once you started to have your own children.
Definitely. And so I was a psychotherapist. I've been a therapist for over 20 years. When I started out, I didn't have kids yet, and I was just working with folks from ages 5 to 95.
Yeah.
And then when my own children were born, my daughter was 2 when my twins were born. So I learned very
Twins.
early on in a very acute way how much support and help parents need and how little is easily accessible. We know that it's out there, but oftentimes at 3 o'clock in the morning, when you have a screaming child on your shoulder and you're trying to figure out who do I Google, what do I do, that's not the best time to be seeking out support. So
True.
I think that for me, it was a light bulb moment, and I decided to focus my practice on helping parents. And I became trained working with folks from pregnancy on, because oftentimes the challenges we face can start during pregnancy as early as then. Um, so working with folks with either postpartum depression or anxiety, just overwhelm, challenges getting wrapping your arms around this new role of being a mom, really allowed me to work with folks in a way that is targeted, and I think it's really been a joy for me. And then eventually, as I was working with folks, they would come to me saying, "I'm okay. I'm not anxious anymore, or I feel like I'm on, more stable footing, but my child is tantruming, and I don't know how to handle that." Or I know what not to do, but I do not know what to do.
Mm,
And so I became trained as a parent coach because I wanted to be able to offer that scaffolding for parents, whether they need support for their own mental health or support figuring out how they want to be as a parent. Because oftentimes we're inundated by all the social media information out there. And so anything you put out there, someone's going to say, yes, that's the way. And someone's going to say exactly the opposite.
So true. It's so confusing.
Really confusing. So it's nice having a bit of a Sherpa, if you will, to walk you through this time, to help guide you, to help you navigate and to come to a place where you feel good as a parent, that you feel calm and stable and comfortable, and that you're a good mom. Because ultimately, we need our kids to know that, we're supporting them, we're behind them, but we also don't want to lose ourselves. You alluded to becoming a parent oftentimes involves some loss,
Yes, yes,
loss of identity, loss of time. Certainly, our relationships tend to change or sometimes go sideways. And so I think offering that support, guidance for parents and giving them resources so that they can manage this time because it is an overwhelming period. Just as you said, transitioning to the empty nest period, kind of transitioning from being a full-time parent to maybe stepping back from that full-time role as such. These are moments of transition, and it's lovely to
yes.
help folks during those times.
Oh, I'm so grateful to hear you say that. And I'm really curious because, well, I just remember myself pregnant with my first child. We have our imaginations. We just project what we think motherhood is going to be when we
Mhm.
get there. And I had expectations for myself or excitement and anticipation of, gosh, I'm going to be home. I'm going to be able to do this. I'm going to be able to do that. And found out the hard way that I wasn't able to even touch any of those things that I thought I was going to be able to do because I had literally no clue how demanding a little baby could be on your time, your sleep, your rest. And I always felt it important because I mentor young mothers to try to let them know that you're okay. It's just you're learning a new system, you're learning a whole new lifestyle. There's nothing wrong with you. You just need some tools. So I'm just so excited to hear what it is that you're going to share with us today. But one thing caught my attention was from the very beginning how you work with women while they're pregnant. So, what are you saying to them at that stage?
Well, oftentimes, if they're coming for therapy, there's a sense of being overwhelmed or
Hmm.
anxious, or they're very concerned about what this new phase in their life is actually going to look like.
Okay.
There's a concern about the loss. Am I going to lose my career, my relationships, my body, my time? And so oftentimes they want to come into therapy, I think, to get on stable footing, to feel like they can enter into this period and know that they're calm and confident. So
Uh,
that oftentimes is what the therapy revolves around. Similarly to, parent coaching within that stage of life too, people want to make sure that they and their partner are on the same page.
Yes. So you have these conversations even before the baby arrives, which I think is brilliant because most women don't have that. And then you're in the throes of taking care of your beautiful new child, and you really don't even have time to consider the things that are broken at that time, and you really need help. So there's something about what happens to a mom, and she doesn't realize it, where a part of her becomes muted because we do literally put a big portion of us to the side. And I remember doing that, out of love. I wanted to. I mean, my focus was taking care of my children. But you do kind of start forgetting who you are and your whole identity. So, what is the first step that a woman needs to take to help reclaim her identity without feeling like there's something wrong with her?
Well, and I hear about this all the time from new parents that they feel like they are lost, that they have, as you said, put themselves on the side or maybe even kind of martyred themselves so that they can be fully present all the time for their families without paying any attention to their own needs. So I really encourage folks, particularly new parents and parents in general, to utilize self-care because self-care is not selfish. Your child
Good.
needs you to feel good. They need you to feel balanced and regulated and healthy. And so making sure you're taking time to do things that are just for you. So whether that is exercise or eating properly or drinking enough water, um, taking time to have time alone, time without a child on your body, on your person, making time for friends, for your relationships that are important to you outside of your family. these are all really critical elements that I think are oftentimes left behind or put off to the side, as you said. And I understand parents, they're busy. They don't have
Yeah,
time to do all these things. I get that pushback all the time. But my rejoinder is that these things do not have to be, hours and hours or days and days. I ask folks to do small things, but small things often. And so
that's
coming
good.
up with a list of things, coming up with, what brings you joy, what brings you happiness, what is just for you is a great way to, keep that top of mind. So when you do have that 5 minutes or a half hour of time, you don't just fritter it away getting on your phone. How easy is it just to pick up your phone, you look up, oh, 25 minutes later, a half hour, an hour later, the time just disappears and you don't feel any better at the end. You probably feel worse. So I ask people to come up with that list ahead of time, cope ahead, I call it. Write out that list. What are things that you can do that don't take a lot of time, but that make you feel good? So maybe that's listening to your favorite music, or writing a friend, or calling somebody, or I had a client said that she would have a pack of bubble gum in her pocket because blowing bubbles made her feel good. Great, fantastic. If that's something,
Yeah,
it's low stakes, easy to do,
sure.
having a pack of gum on you, that's a pretty easy thing to pull off. But these are not gaps or these are not substitutes for, genuine long-term self-care projects. But they are kind of in the interim during this very busy season of life. They are small ways to signal to yourself that you count. Your needs matter. You are
Mhm.
important. It's not only your child's needs, which of course are important, but you count too. And so not to disappear.
That's so vital. And I'm glad that you gave small, simple things for the mother to do because not everyone has a community around them. Not everyone has the grandparents that they could call up and say, "Hey, can Sally come over for a couple hours? I just need to rest." So giving easy little things that means a lot to that mother for her own personal self-care. I love that you shared that. Yeah, that
Many
is
people, I mean, to your point, Debbie, a lot of people are not near their families of origin.
right, right.
I live in New York City. Many people move here for careers and for
Mhm.
schooling, and they stay and they start families, and they don't have grandma next door or aunts and uncles downstairs or somebody down the road that is a part of their family to be able to step in and lend a hand. So you have to build that.
Yes, that was good advice. And so I was really interested to hear about, your workshops and the loyalty bind and the
Mm.
stop, soften, see. Tell us what that's about. And are these some of the tools that you use to help mothers with?
Definitely. After working as a therapist for many years now, a couple decades, um, I was coming upon folks that were having a bit of a block. They knew they wanted to change, they knew the tools, but in the moment they had a hard time utilizing them,
Hmm.
and there was something getting in the way. And this isn't universal, certainly, but I think for a certain cohort of people, when you change, you're somehow judging your family of origin. So if you were shifting out of what your mom did, even though if you swore up and down, I would never do that thing, I'd never say that thing, oftentimes when we are tired or stressed or overwhelmed, those things come out, despite
Yes,
our
they
best
do.
intentions. And so
Hmm.
again, people would come to me saying, I can't figure it out. I want to change, I want to do something different, and yet I feel blocked. And push comes to shove, I make a decision and I revert to what I know. And that is entirely understandable. That's kind of in our it's kind of built into our systems. That's what we know very intimately, having lived that. But so I don't think it's laziness or lack of tools. I think people oftentimes, they have the tools per se, but putting them into action, there's some block, and I call it the loyalty bind. Because when you do shift, when you do change, when you do something different from what your parents did, oftentimes it feels disloyal.
Yes.
And maybe not on a conscious level, but on an unconscious level. So
Hmm.
I think for folks, when they do opt to make a change, to chart a new course, there is this block, this kind of hump they have to overcome in order to actually put that change into effect. And so I think, we tend to revert to what is normal for us,
It
what
is
our
so
baseline
true.
is.
And it's interesting about the parenting angle because a lot of times you'll hear in marriage, you bring into marriage what you've learned or saw your mother and father
What you
model
witnessed.
as husband and wife, but we don't tend to think we are doing the same things as parents. And so I love that you've opened up that, enlightenment to even consider that. And it's interesting that stress seems to be the thing that brings it out. And we don't realize we're doing some of the same things that our parents do. And, I understand that you feel disloyal, you feel dishonoring, you feel like, oh, my parents did this wrong, so I'm going to do it right. And that's not really what you're teaching them to say. You're helping them discover maybe a different way to do it, or a new culture for your home. So like for instance, my husband and I, we got married. We wanted to establish the culture for our children growing up. And we took, well, so I have this book here called The Family Letter. And in there I had to talk about what we both missed growing up was those words of affirmation,
Mm.
things like that. But that generation, our parents, that wasn't the norm for them. And I felt guilty in a way talking about that, but it was like, no, I've honored them because in that generation, that's just what they did. Emotions were not shared. And so we just took the best of our parents and then said, we're going to add this new culture to what our parents have taught us, and then just take it another level. And then we felt like we were still honoring them, but just I think every parent wants their child to grow deeper, go higher, as they go forward.
I think that that's beautifully put. And when I work with parents, I like to use the example, you're passing a baton.
That's
Your
good.
parents did their best with you and they passed that baton to you, and now it's our job to try to improve on that. And it doesn't
Hmm.
mean that your parents had ill intentions or that they were bad parents. They did their best.
Yeah.
And we're going to do our best, and we will make mistakes too. And hopefully our children will improve upon our parenting as they go forward. So I think if you liken it to, I don't advocate for there's a certain parenting style that is, this is the standard. This is the perfect parenting we should all achieve, because I think that we're all on the road. We're passing that baton to the next generation, and we
Yeah.
don't actually arrive at the finish line per se.
Hmm.
There's always room for improvement. Nobody is perfect. And I think that it is, and so for me, that I'm not casting aspersions or judgment on parents. I know how hard it is. I lived it myself.
Hmm.
Um, but I also know that when we can feel that we are actually making that improvement, that we're not just replicating what we know because it's just in our bones, that
Yes.
is a gift to your child.
It's almost like you're giving yourself permission to do something different. Is that what a new parent needs to hear from you? You have that permission to do it differently.
Truly, and I think it's the permission to figure out what works for you and for your
Hmm.
family. And it
Hmm.
might not look like what your parents did. And that's why I think getting on the same page with your partner as well is key. They did not grow up in the same household as you. They probably have very different ideas about what normal is like, what is just done, what the expectations are that are unspoken.
Hmm.
And so that's why I like working with folks during this time, whether it is, during pregnancy or shortly thereafter, because it gives you a chance to let's figure out shoulder to shoulder as a couple how we want to proceed down this path, what it is that is important to us, what we want to bring forward from our pasts, and what we want to leave behind.
What have you found that some new parents are sharing with you, like what the culture of their home they want it to look like? What are some of the ideas that you hear?
Well, I think a lot of folks don't want to be yellers. They don't want to be, and I think that, if you yell at your kid, you raise a kid eventually that will yell back. Um, and yet I hear this, well, it's better to yell than it is to hit.
Mm.
True. But again, this is the
Mhm.
idea. We're passing the baton. Hopefully, we're improving on each iteration as we go forward. And I'd much rather have people yell than hit, obviously. But I also think that yelling, berating your child can also be damaging.
Yes.
So I think that for us, and I work with a lot of folks that they yell. And I understand that when you are, again, your child has a way sometimes of working your last nerve. They find that moment during the day when you are at your worst, you're most tired, you just want to call it a day, them to go to bed easily, and those are the moments where they will resist. And you can take that as being belligerent or being challenging or being deliberately, intentionally, uncooperative, or you can
Hmm.
look at it as a sign. They need something, they need my help. And I think that one of the tools that you mentioned initially, that the SSS, stop, soften, see, is really key to use during those times, because instead of just assuming the worst and assuming that your child has ill intent. They're doing this on purpose. They're doing this to you. They're not giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time. And so if you're able to
Perspective.
stop in the moment, gain that perspective, I think slowing things down is really key. So SSS is all about stop. That's the first step. Stop talking, stop yelling, inject a pause. Put your hand over your mouth if you have to. Um, and then softening. The person you're dealing with, your child who's giving you such pushback, is still your baby. That is the same individual you cradled in your arms. And if you could harken back to that and remember, okay, this is still my baby.
Mm,
This is not the enemy. This is somebody who I love very dearly, who is showing me that they need some help. And then seeing their point of view. I would imagine that you don't necessarily agree with their point of view, but you can see where they're coming from. If they don't want to do their
mhm,
homework, if they want to stay up later, or they're not listening to you, they don't pick up their clothes off the floor, you can understand why not. Those are not necessarily enjoyable for them. We
mhm.
see it as necessary because we're seeing it from a different point of view. We're the adults.
Right.
So if you can come to it with that level of understanding and empathy, then you can go to them and say, okay, let's look for a win-win solution. Yes, you need to go to bed. Yes, you can decide whether you want to, read one book or two books, but ultimately you are going to bed. You know what I mean? I think there are still boundaries, there are still, expectations that you have as a parent. It's not that the child rules the roost or runs the show, certainly. But I think if you're able to go and kind of come alongside them as opposed to at them, you'll get much less pushback, much more cooperation.
Oh, that just feels good when I hear that from you because when you just come at a child, they're just going to come back at you and it just the whole environment changes. It just is not good. Sometimes we could use authority not in a good way. And there's a way to soften, still have authority, but soften it to get your point across, is what I feel I hear you're saying.
Yeah, it's all about loving boundaries.
Hmm.
I think you can have boundaries and not be harsh or punitive or mean, but you can be firm and loving and let it be known this is going to happen. And how do we make it easier for you? It's not a question of whether or not it's going to happen. You will go to bed. And yet, how do we make it more enjoyable? How do we kind of, and in other words, let us work together as opposed to at odds.
I like that. So let me ask you this. Do you see extremes? And I'll give you an example. So I'll just say from my generation growing up, and anybody who's listening will remember this. When we were told to do something and we didn't want to do it, it was like, you do it because I told you so. You do it because I'm the parent. Like you never were able to voice an opinion or share how you felt about what you were being told to do. It was just, you do it because I told you. So there was total lack of communication or at least shared ideas. Where then I saw my generation go to the other extreme where they say, okay, I want you to do something. And the child says, no, well, let me explain to you why. And then they go on and on and on and on to explain why they should be doing. And the child knows that point, they've won. So we went from one extreme to the other. Do you see that? Give us some examples and your expert advice.
Sure. So what you're describing is punitive parenting to permissive parenting.
Okay.
Those two opposite extremes, or punitive parenting is my way or the highway.
Mm-hmm.
Very top down, very much like I'm telling you what to do, you're going to do it, and I don't expect to be questioned or I don't want any pushback. Otherwise, there'll be punishment.
Right.
The other side, people can sometimes tack the other way to very permissive parenting, where the parents are almost afraid to put rules and expectations and boundaries in place. They want to be loved. They don't want to be harsh, maybe like what their parents did. And
True.
so they kind of bend, again, they tack the other side. And that feels very unsafe for children.
Mm-hmm.
They need to know that there are limits. They're going to push against those limits to make sure they're there, but it feels safe to know mom and dad are in charge. I'm not the one in charge. And so I think that, again, kids will probably not admit this, at least initially. But again, it feels safe if they know that you are the ones, they don't have to take that on their shoulders. They
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be the parents or the adults in the room. You are. So not being afraid of doing that and setting boundaries with love, holding limits kindly. And that to me is the sweet spot. So you have
Mm.
high expectations of your child and also high support. That's the kind of the Venn diagram there, where you want your child to know that you're there to support them, to help them, but also that there are expectations of them. And so it's not, I think a lot of people conflate um, anything that's not punitive parenting with being, permissive parenting. And it's just not the case. That middle ground, that soft spot, that kind of um, the place where I think we're kind of hoping to achieve is that authoritative parenting, not authoritarian, authoritative, where we are in charge. We are the captains of the ship. We are in charge of our family,
Yes.
not the child.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we do it kindly and in a compassionate, empathic way.
No, I agree. I'm glad you shared that because I just thought, gosh, I have seen that in each generation is going to do an extreme of what they had growing up. So I was just curious as to what you've seen. So when a mother comes to you, how do you help them identify some of those vows that they have like subconsciously made? I'll never do this. Or maybe my family was as a an idea, well, we never got angry or we never talked about things. So like how do you help them identify that that is wrong? Uh, or do some of the moms or the parents that come to you don't even see that that's an issue? How do you help them discover that that is something that needs to change?
Well, I don't approach it as being wrong or right.
Okay.
Basically, I ask folks, is this working?
Mm-hmm.
Is your home environment the type of place that you want it to be? Is it warm? Is it loving? Is it generally easygoing? Do your kids follow your lead? Usually folks come into counseling or to therapy or to parent coaching because things are not working so great.
Mm-hmm.
They want some help and they acknowledge that. Um, but to my earlier point, I think that oftentimes it's hard to admit what exactly is going on.
Yeah.
Again, the desire's there. Oftentimes, they're motivated and yet something's getting in the way. And so unpacking that and doing it in a very, to me, it's very open-hearted. It's very much about let's explore, what's going on. And I think that because parent coaching and therapy with this particular cohort of folks, it's really, let's walk through exactly what's going on. Talk to me about what dinner time looks like. Give me an example of what happened last Saturday night when things went off the rails. Talk to
Mm-hmm.
me about bedtimes. Because for me, this is called transitions, right? The transitions that kids go through, getting up, getting dressed, getting out the door, homework, meal times, bath times, bedtimes. Those are moments of transition
Mm-hmm.
where there are expectations in place. And oftentimes, those are the times when our expectations and our child's expectations do not match. So that's
Most
when we get
times.
pushback. They want to
Yeah.
sleep in, they don't want to
Yeah.
get up to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
They're not so concerned about being there on time. We as the adults are clearly. And so that's when there's friction, and that's oftentimes when there's pushback when parents frequently will reach out for therapy or for counseling or for coaching for those moments of challenge. Um, I do find though that oftentimes one member of the couple might see things very differently.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's, one parent thinking that the other parent is being very soft or very permissive. They need to put their foot down. And so the other parent will maybe come across as more harsh, more punitive, more demanding, just as a way to counterbalance. And I find that that sweet spot, tacking these either extreme is generally not particularly effective. But working together as a team, coming across as okay, let's figure out how we problem solve this together. So it's not that, I'm leading the charge in one way and you do it very differently. When dad's around, it works like this. When mom's around, things function like that.
Yeah,
That I
that
think can be
causes
very,
trouble.
well, it's very confusing for the child, but I think they
Sure.
also get wise. I know what flies with mom isn't going to fly with dad and vice versa. So I know who to go to ask.
That's so true.
They're
At
very
a
sharp,
young
these guys.
age, yeah, they're able to read us so well. We don't give them much credit, do we?
Well,
And
they
I
know
love
us.
how you're bridging the gap with the parents, their parenting style, not making one wrong and one right, but bringing them together. So how can we do this together for the sake of the child? I love that boundaries. And I think a lot of parents forget that the boundaries are what make your children feel safe. So if you're in that place, I just want to be my child's friend, or I just want to be loved, it's going to work against you, because when your children go to another home and see that their friends' parents do say no, or no, I don't want you to go there because it's not safe, they feel more loved. They feel like their friends are more loved than they are. Isn't that true?
It is, and it's a bit of a paradox because parents feel like, well, if I say no, my child will not love me.
Right.
I'm somehow endangering our relationship, and I want so desperately. Maybe they waited a long time to have a child, or maybe they for them,
Hmm.
this child is really the culmination of a long time of waiting and wanting and desiring.
Yeah.
And so they really want to be friends with their child. They really want a quality relationship. But I think approaching your child as if they were a peer uh, will make things very challenging for both of you. You are not your child's peer. You're not their friend. You are their parent. I think you can have a fantastic relationship as parent and child, and that relationship obviously will grow and adapt and change and evolve over time as they get
Hmm.
older. But obviating your responsibility as a parent to be the one that is in charge, I think makes things very challenging for parents. And then oftentimes, you know, um, your child behavior will not be ideal. On the flip side, when
Right.
parents are more punitive and they feel like, well, my child needs rules and they need a tremendous amount of structure. And so children sometimes will start to tell you what you want to hear and then go behind your back and do something else. And so that very strict style of parenting too can backfire because your child learns not to trust you. They don't believe necessarily that you have their best interest at heart. They believe that you're just being harsh just for the sake of being harsh. They don't feel like they've been understood or heard or seen. And your child eventually will get wise and get older and they'll go behind your back and they will tell you what you want to hear, which might not be the truth
That's
to what actually
true.
happened. So I think, again, either style of parenting, I've seen that backfire. So oftentimes folks coming in to see me, they want to work on, how do I regain that relationship with my child so that
Mm,
I feel that I am the one in charge and I am also the one that is responsible as the adult. But I want things to be easier. I want them to follow my lead. I don't want to have to fight about everything.
hmm.
And really, the quality of the relationship, the connection, that is your key. That is on a lot of times your only lever. You cannot bodily pick up a teenager and like make them go to school.
Right,
They
right.
have to want to do that. You can't pry them out of bed and make sure they get dressed and out the door. They have to want to do that. And you want them to want to please you as a parent. You want them to have a relationship with you where they respect you and they feel connected to you and close to you. And that to me is the secret to this game. That is really your ace in the hole as a parent is making sure you are warmly connected to your child.
Yes. No, I believe in that. And that was what was so important to my husband and I. We wanted our children to know that they were loved, valued, and celebrated. But with that package also came the authority of the mother and father, that we're always going to do what's best for you. We're here to guide you, protect you, love you. You may not understand why we're saying no, but we see a bigger picture that you don't see right now. But I I really believe because we loved, valued, and celebrated them for who they were, and we verbally let them know, we affirmed them, not flattery, but true affirmation and praise. There was a confidence that was built in them, and
Mm.
that relationship, that even when there was a struggle, they would still follow because they felt valued and they didn't have to fight for that recognition. We gave it to them.
Well, and you see what the result was.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I was just thinking about the parent who wants to be the friend now while the children are growing up and while they're teenagers. I would just say you have your season backwards. Your time to be your children's friend and mentor is going to be when they're a young adult, when they leave your home. That's the season in life where your relationship will shift and change. But it's what you've cultivated while they're growing up that's going to give you that open door and permission to step into their lives as a mentor and friend. But so now while they're young, be their parent because you're going to get to be their friend the rest of their lives. You only have a short season to parent them before they go off. They're in college and they're on their own. So you have your seasons backwards. I just felt like I needed to say that. Don't put that season in parenting. Parenting is now. That other season comes later. And that in itself is going to have a lot of transition for you. So, Olivia, I wanted to ask you because I was just thinking about this teenager that doesn't want to get out of bed. So, how do you help parents establish consequences? Or, if this doesn't happen, then there's the consequence. What is your advice on that?
Yeah, I believe in natural consequences. So when a child doesn't get up to go to school and they miss the exam and they wonder why they're not doing well in that class, that is a natural consequence.
Hmm.
So I think that, you enforcing consequences on the outside and kind of having it be punitive, you know, uh, things that are coming after the fact, oftentimes is not going to motivate your child to do the right thing. Instead, we want to work with them. Okay, why is it so challenging for you to get up and out of bed in the morning? Is there something about the class? Is there something about the teacher? How do I help you? Let's figure this out. So
Mm.
pivoting to the problem solving aspect and engaging your child as they're older, as a teenager, they have input, they have ideas. Let's work together to figure this out. As opposed to top down, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to punish you, I'm going to make sure that you feel some kind of pain. I mean, that's what punishment is about, right? In inflicting pain. And we
Hmm.
don't want our child, again, to associate us with pain per se, but and yet we want to have them face the consequences, the real world consequences, because eventually you're not going to be there to get them out of bed. They're going to be
That's
off on
true.
their own. They're going to have to get up to go to
Hmm.
class, to college, or to go to work. You're not going to be standing there, like shaking them out of bed. Um, so I think that when you can look at it as, okay, I see that there's a problem here. I see that there's an issue. Um, let's figure out how we can work on this together. I've got my ideas. I want to hear your ideas, and ultimately coming up with an idea. Again, that collaboration I think is important, knowing that you are still the ultimate adjudicator. You are the one that, again, is in charge and saying, okay, this is what needs to happen.
Hmm.
But I think welcoming your child's perspective, being able to hear them out is key. Again, whether you're working with somebody who's 5 or 15 or um, engaging them in the process, respecting their point of view without necessarily, again, taking it whole cloth and using that per se. But I think knowing that, okay, I want to hear what your thoughts
Hmm.
because you are a huge component of this and we need to work together on this.
Don't you think the bottom line sometimes is they just want to be understood? Like, you
Well,
just
that's where
don't
the empathy comes
understand.
across. Right.
Yeah, there's
Again, whether or
something
not
going on inside that they don't
you want
really
to
tell us.
they want to be seen and heard and understood.
Mm.
And I think the way to do that, the fastest way to have a child slam the door in your face is to say, you're punished, you're grounded, you can't. In other words, I think that that's why cultivating the relationship is so key.
It is so key.
Because again, that is your lever. That is the way you can help your child to get those things done that you need, they need to get done. You want them to do, but maybe they're not so keen to do.
Do you ever coach with like say it's a teenager, present with the parents and come up with a plan, or do you just coach the parents?
I only coach the parents because I want to be able to have a conversation that is open.
Hmm.
Oftentimes, when a child is present, people are editing themselves, and I might not hear the actual full story. I also want the parent to be the one that is considered to be the authority.
Hmm.
If you're coming to me, again, who is this lady? The child is probably like, no, they don't have the same relationship or level of understanding as to what my role is. And I really
Hmm.
want the parent to be the one that is in the situation, in situ, stepping in and taking stepping into their authority. And so coaching parents, and that's why I really like to review, okay, let's talk about this thing that happened this weekend, last night. So using real world examples and gaming it out with folks, let's figure out another way that this could go. Knowing that that particular incident is probably going to happen again.
Hmm.
That challenge is probably going to recur, particularly if it's around a certain time of day or a certain activity. Um, that's why when folks are coming to me again for therapy or for counseling or for coaching, it's really let's look at brass tacks, let's roll up our sleeves and figure out what's going on and how we can give you suggestions and ideas to shift, to change, to make this the outcome different than it is right now.
So I love all of that. So I'm just wondering if parents come to you, you give them great ideas and how to go back and lead their children, parent their children. Is there ever a situation where maybe it's so difficult that the parent needs to go back and just say, "Hey, I'm sorry, I don't think I've been doing this right. I want to start again," and then implement what you have taught them? Or do they just go in and implement what you've taught them?
Well, I think if we are able and willing to admit that things aren't, that we made a mistake,
That's good.
I think we
Mhm.
want our children to acknowledge that. And I think we have to model that. If we want our children to not get so stuck and be able to acknowledge, okay, I messed up. I made a mistake. We have to show them how that's done. So we can't be precious about, well, because I'm the parent, I'm the authority figure, I cannot tell them or share with them that I made a mistake or I want to do things differently. If we want our children to be more flexible, less rigid, we have to show them how. This is
Mhm.
not something that they know innately. We need to model that and to say, and I think I encourage parents to say, you know what, I messed up. Yesterday I yelled at you. No one deserves to be yelled at. I'm really working on that. Please call me out next time. Remind me, which kids love to do. They love to call out their parents when they're making mistakes. So, that is a real, incentive, I think, for parents to show their kid that yes, you can make mistake. That is understandable, but the repair, that is key. Because once we do make a mistake, do you go back and make that repair? Do you prioritize that, knowing that, okay, again, I did or said something that I regret. I'm going to work on that, and I will promise you, I'm trying to do better. Ultimately, again, this is what we want our kids to do. When we point out their mistakes or their errors or misbehaviors, we want them to acknowledge it and not to feel too proud to say, "Okay, you're right. I made a mistake. I'm sorry." Um,
Yeah.
but again, they need to know how to do that, and we have to show them how.
And I really believe when you say you're sorry, it can kind of start softening the heart of the child, or like they're so taken off guard that you apologize, it's actually a courageous thing and a powerful thing to do.
Truly, and I think something we don't do often enough.
I agree. So that's a shout out to everyone who's listening. It takes a lot of courage to say that you're sorry, but what you're missing by not saying you're sorry, you're missing the ripple effect in the heart of your child. You're missing the potential of your relationship getting stronger. Because think about it as an adult. When another adult comes to you and say, I'm really sorry the way I treated you. I'm really sorry that I forgot to do this. Doesn't that make you feel more endeared towards that person? And that's what your child needs. So I just wanted to share that. So I want to hear about you have one-on-one coaching. Is it a mommy reset? You want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up. So I've got a session called the Good Mom Reset.
Oh, I love it.
And so it's for folks that don't want to maybe enter into a big program or long-term therapy or coaching. It's a one-time session with me, 75 minutes. We take one issue. So it's one pattern, one challenge, if it's a challenging time of day or something that keeps happening again and again. And we build a personalized plan around it. So I send that plan to you the next day. And so it's not generic advice. It's really tailored to your specific child, your specific trigger, your specific issue. And then we check in 3 weeks later to see how it went, what the progress is, what needs to be worked on. So it's a low stakes way for moms to get the help that they need to get real traction, to get real change without committing to a bigger package or a bigger program.
Oh, I love that. And I really believe once you have that experience of breaking one pattern, understanding something that needs to be fixed, it just opens you up to want more. And so, yeah, I think that's brilliant that you're doing that. You have shared so much valuable information with us today, Olivia. And in our final thoughts, is there something that you would love to share with any of the parents that are listening?
Absolutely. And thank you so much again, Debbie, for your time and your attention and this format. I think it's been fantastic. Um, for me, I think letting parents know that you don't have to be perfect, that you are working so hard and people don't see how hard you're working as a parent. Um, and yet knowing that, I know we wish we all had somebody behind us kind of peering at what we're doing and saying like, you're doing a good job, patting us on the back. And oftentimes we don't have that. But that's why knowing that, okay, the job you're doing is so challenging, but I think it's the most important job in the world. Being a parent, raising the next generation, you're really having an impact and not losing sight of that and knowing that this is challenging and you can do it. You are a good parent. You're working really hard. Just by listening to this podcast, I know that you're engaged and you're interested and you really want to do what's best for your child. And so knowing that and really, walking on that path.
Thank you for sharing that. And if anyone wants to reach out and work with you, Olivia, how would they connect with you?
Sure, they're welcome to reach out to me through my website, mommygroove.com. I'm also on the socials at Mommy Groove, so Instagram, TikTok, and the rest. But please, yeah, you're welcome to reach out just to say hi. I'd be happy to hear from you.
Yes, and I'll have all of Olivia's contact information in my show notes. And again, Olivia, what fabulous, fantastic information you shared today. I know I've learned a lot. My children are grown, but I wish I had a lot of the information that you shared today as I was parenting my children. And so I know that anyone who works with you is going to become a better parent and be so grateful that they've worked with you. So thank you again for being here today.
Thank you, Debbie.
You're welcome. And to my transition tribe, thank you for coming in each and every week because together we are discovering the purpose and the power of life's transitions. And this is one of the main transitions in a person's life when you step into parenthood. There's so much to learn. There's a lot of joy, there's a lot of challenge. And so, if you are pregnant right now and you're wanting to know, how can I be a great mom? Connect with Olivia. And if you're in a parenting situation right now and you just need some wisdom and some insight and some strategy and tools, I want you to connect with Olivia. And remember, every transition has a purpose, every transition has a power. So don't be afraid of them. Embrace them and cross that transition bridge and get to the other side because what's on the other side is your new season, your new direction, and the thing that you are called to do. Thank you for being with me here today.